everything you think is wrong with yourself and wrong with the world. Now add to all three of those for 21 straight days and see what happens to you. You're never going to get your victory log done in a day. You're always going to be adding to that. You're always going to find things that you're grateful for. But you're going to look at that negative list, and it could be what somebody else thinks about you. It could be public opinion, things that are wrong with the world, things that you have absolutely no control over. And you're going to find yourself crossing those things off because that's not the real you. And just by thinking about that, in The Secret, Rhonda Byrne talks about shifters. And these are just positive thoughts that you can automatically throw on top of something negative. It won't make the negative go away, but it will overpower it. Positivity wins all the time. And I love the phrase, happiness is an inside job. And that's what this is all about.
I like that. You just mentioned about how you can't control what other people say about you. And that's something that's very important. And I just recently heard a quote. I don't know who it's from, but it struck me as amusing and it's appropriate here. And it says, you can't control what other people say, so just be the best person you can and make sure they spell your name right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really, really good. But the bottom line is we all have what are called expectations of ourselves and what we think other people expect of us. And that's what really gets us into trouble. That's what really gets our egos down, because the bottom line is we are all fragile, and we have to work with those tools to realize how good that person in the mirror really is, because there is only one you, and you got stuff that nobody else has. So rather than comparing yourself to something that you don't have that somebody else does, you got things that they don't. And if you're all, again, collaborating and helping each other out, build upon that, that's the key to happiness.
And that is a very important key. Understand that you are different from everybody else. So comparing yourself to others is like comparing apples and oranges. You're not going to be as good as some people in some things. You're going to be better than a lot of people in a lot of things. And on balance, you really have to look at yourself and say, this is who I am. I am an individual. And so is everybody else, and you have different strengths, different weaknesses, so the comparison really isn't apt.
Yeah. And, we talk about turning the obstacles into opportunities. When we list these bad traits that we have, or this or that or whatever, we can list the good things also. And think of an exercise, maybe with your family or with your friends or in the workplace, where you're automatically just listing all the good things about everybody in the room. And think about what the effect that's going to have on that room. In the workplace, the bottom line is if you're working together, collaborating, and emphasizing the good in each other, you're going to have a really, really well-knit team, and that's going to lead to another P in business, which is very important, which is profitability. Because the bottom line is a happy workforce works a whole lot better together. And we talk about the mastermind principle of putting a whole bunch of minds together to accomplish a single purpose, and that is so powerful. So if you take the time to do that as opposed to taking a look at things that are wrong, it's really, really great way to apply this in the workplace as well as personally.
Yeah, and that's another point that's really important is that everything you're saying is applicable to a person. However, it can also be rolled out among a family, a group of friends, an organization, a business. It scales up. And the more people that work on this, the better the outcome will be.
Yeah. Again, it all starts with the person in the mirror who is fantastic. And once you realize that and you go in there with a positive attitude, again, positivity and optimism are just as contagious as negativity. And once you get it going, think about how you feel when somebody starts talking about positive things and it just lights up the whole room. It happens all the time. And you could be the person to get that going just by being a positive person yourself, smiling at people, not being the one to chime in when people start criticizing people and so on and so forth. You have the choice in every single present moment to respond positively, and that's where it starts. And it is
It,
contagious once you get it going.
exactly. And you really do have to make that choice. I did a workshop recently and somebody had asked me about attitudes and all of this. And I said, people have come up to me and said, it's amazing. You're always so upbeat. You're always smiling. And I explained to them that this is part of my uniform. I put the suit on in the morning. I put a smile on my face. I put the right attitude on. Once I'm away from people, I swear like a sailor and vent. But when I'm in front of people, when I'm in a group, this is part of my presentation. It's
Yeah.
the same way I dress well and want to put out a certain image. That smile and that positive attitude goes on with it.
And that's what you're giving to the world and to the universe, and it's so important to do that. And you do bring up a good point. I don't sit here in la la land smiling all day long and so on and so forth, saying how good things are. I mean, the bottom line is I struggle just like everybody else does. It's human nature. And all we are talking about is your awareness that you can choose positivity in any moment, realizing that you're going to have good days, good moments, bad days, bad moments, but it's a choice. And that's the most important thing to realize. And using what we just talked about to achieve positivity and keep it going for yourself is something that's a choice too.
Right. And it's important to make that choice. Very often I've spoken to people and they just assume that they don't have a choice in the matter. They react how they're going to react. And there was an old story I heard that was a great example in that you're driving along in a car and you're in a very posh neighborhood. It's, a very safe area, and somebody suddenly cuts you off. And your first reaction is you yell and you curse and you scream at this person. Same situation. You're driving along, but you're in a really bad neighborhood. And you're conscious of the fact that anybody in that neighborhood could be armed. And somebody cuts you off. Do you still get out and yell and scream at them? No, because you've taken into the fact that they could be armed and you could be shot for doing it. So, because you're taking that same situation in different places and reacting differently, it shows you have the ability to stop, assess the situation, and then respond. And when it's explained like that, people suddenly go, "Yeah, I guess so." I mean, it doesn't take that long to assess the situation and decide how to respond. You just have to take that moment.
Yeah, and we talked again about the difference between reaction and responding. And it's really, really important to take that pregnant pause. And one of the best things that you can do is ask yourself if that scenario that you just had a negative reaction to, is it really true? Is this person having a bad day? You have no idea what's going on. And this is, I think, what's her name? Byron Katie or whatever, she does an exercise in this. Is this true? Is this really true? And turning things around. And that's one of the best ways that you can analyze things. Again, realizing that you have no control over anybody else except the person in the mirror. So that's one of the ways that you can put that pregnant pause in there, is to ask, is this really true? Did that guy really cut me off because he hates me or so on and so forth? Or is he just, trying to get there really quick and so on and so forth? And Lord knows, we do the same thing too. And the easiest place to act up is in a car, as far as I'm concerned anyway. So it's a good place to
Right.
start.
There's something about being in the car. It's, this illusion of privacy that just makes you go off knowing that the people in the other car can't hear you.
Yeah, you got the box around you.
Yes.
So, but again, I mean, that pregnant pause is so important. And one of the best responses that you could have is just silence. If you want to really, really make somebody else comfortable with you and start respecting you, the best thing you can do is just listen to them. And sometimes you listen for a long time and don't say a word, and they walk away feeling so good just because you gave them your ear. That's the best form of caring, is listening to people.
Yes, that's something that's also very important to remember, is that when you give somebody your ear, when you're actually listening to them, people appreciate that in ways they don't express. I actually said in a workshop I just did that when a group of people are together, the person that walks away going, "That was a great time. I had a great conversation." 9 times out of 10, that's the person who was talking about themselves and somebody else listened to them and let them go. So people really do they enjoy having somebody listen to them, and it brings a positive mindset to them.
Yeah, absolutely. And we talk a lot about networking, and a lot of people ask in networking, they say I'm a shy person. I really can't go out and network because I have a hard time talking to people. And that's one of the best things you can do as far as breaking the ice. This is tip number one. Just walk up to somebody, introduce yourself to them, and ask them a question. That will get them talking, and it gets everybody comfortable. And you can be the shyest person in the world, but you can still do that, and it does a mountain of good.
Absolutely. Listening is a key ability that unfortunately too many people don't develop. And, there's a reason there's an old saying, you have 2 ears and one mouth, use in proportion. So,
Again,
so we're coming to the end of our time. So, can you summarize the 4 Ps as, what's the big takeaway from them that our audience should have?
all right. Again, the formula for happiness and success is living life with the 4 Ps: purpose, passion, positivity, and a plan. And the most important P there is positivity, and that is your choice in every single moment. So if you can develop that positive mindset, that fuels your positive perspective, which will fuel that mindful positive response to all of the events in your life. And if you can grab a hold of that, you got magic going on, not only for you, but everybody that you interact with.
Yeah, I think that's the big takeaway for me is that you're not simply doing this for yourself. This is something you're also helping other people with. You're bringing them positivity. By taking that pregnant pause, you can keep things not just on an even keel, but actually going well. Whereas a quick response is not necessarily the correct one. So take that pause, think about what you're doing, and that doesn't just help you, but it helps the people around you. You've been listening to the Success Showcase. You can catch us every week at xvadio.com/podcasts. You can also find us on the Apple Podcasts app, Google Play, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and wherever you find podcasts. Remember, make this your best week ever and make next week even better. See you then.